Hello, beautiful. Welcome back to the show. Before we get into the show, I just wanted to read you a review from Apple Podcasts. It says, "What a blessing. Through Alexandra, I am learning so much about holistic healing properties, including foods, essential oils, herbal medicine, and vitamins. It's really overwhelming, but so gratifying. And not only that, she applies biblical principles to every podcast, which is a must for me. I never knew it could make so much sense to put God and holistic healing together in the same podcast. So not only am I learning all about beneficial ancient remedies, I'm learning how to put my trust and faith in God. Alexandra is truly amazing and has definitely been used by God. Thank you so much for your wisdom and guidance to help me begin my walk in health. Elisa Rose." Thank you so much, Elisa. I'm so glad that you're finding value in this podcast and that you're growing in your relationship with God, because that is the most important thing. If you enjoy this podcast, I invite you to write a review. In this episode, I'm talking about a passage in 1 Samuel chapter 8. It just kind of popped into my head when I was trying to figure out what to talk about next on the podcast, because I kind of like to alternate between Bible and health, although I usually integrate the two. So this passage just kind of popped into my head. It's a passage talking about how the Israelites wanted a king. So they tell Samuel that they want a king, and we see that God is rejected by the Israelites. After you listen to this episode, I invite you to just dive in to the chapter and see what you learn from God from this chapter. Welcome to Her Holistic Healing. Do you want more energy and less anxiety so that you can do all the things? Are you searching for meal ideas, essential oils, and other holistic treatments? Do you wish you could know which direction to take with your health so that you could finally feel better? Hey, I'm Alexandra. I love Jesus. I'm a wife, mom of 3, and registered nurse with years of experience in clinical research. I also wanted more energy so that I could have more fun and keep up with my growing child. I too was confused about all the different diet and treatment options. I too wanted to wake up every day and feel good, but I felt anxious because I couldn't solve the mystery of my health. Until God showed me that He is the source of true healing. In this podcast, you will learn holistic treatments and Bible truths that will lead you to the peace, joy, and freedom that you have been hoping for. So what do you say we take a break from the mind-numbing humdrum busyness? Let's rest and let God be our healer and helper. 1 Samuel chapter 8 talks about how the Israelites go to Samuel and pretty much demand that he choose a king for them. Starting in verse 4, it says, "Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, 'Behold, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the nations.' But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, 'Give us a king to judge us.' And Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, 'Obey the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them. According to all the deeds that they have done, from the day I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are also doing to you. Now then, obey their voice. Only you shall solemnly warn them and show them the ways of the king who shall reign over them." So Samuel talks to the Israelites and tells them what will happen when there's a king over them. So he tells them all these things. I'll read verse 17 to you. It says, "He will take the 10th of your flocks, and you shall be his slaves." So he's basically saying that they will become slaves when they have a king over them. Verse 19, "But the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, 'No, but there shall be a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. And when Samuel had heard all the words of the people, he repeated them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, obey their voice and make them a king. When I read this, I think, well, I know that God felt rejected, because it says in verse 7, God is saying to Samuel, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them, according to all the deeds that they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are also doing to you. Can you imagine? God helped them to cross the Red Sea. He saved them from the Israelites. He's basically, God was their knight in shining armor, right? He brought down all these plagues on the Egyptians and the Israelites. Nothing happened to the Israelites. When they were in the desert, he gave food to them. Basically, food came from the sky, and the Israelites complained. Samuel basically told them, if you have a king over you, you'll basically become slaves. It sounds crazy, right? God, they're basically the knight in shining armor who saved the Israelites. You know, he's so much better than a knight in shining armor. He's so much more than that, and yet they rejected him, and it made me think, how often though do we choose someone else or something else over God? How often do we make money our king, or we make our egos our king? We think that we're so great, or we want to be recognized, or we make worldly success our king. We just choose these false gods and end up being enslaved to these things. In verse 20, it talks about how they wanted a king to be like all the nations. They wanted a king to fight their battles. I honestly don't know if it was the churches that I grew up in as a kid, or if it was just me. Whenever I was told to read my Bible or to follow God, it just felt like people in church were trying to guilt me into it, or trying to make me feel bad if I didn't spend time with God. No one wants to be forced into doing something, right? So I guess when you're tempted to choose something over God, don't be fooled about what you are choosing. It's so easy to think that something else is better than God. But if you look at just so many people that seem like they have everything, for instance, a celebrity, how many times have we looked in a magazine or seen someone on TV or in a movie? They claim that their lives are just so happy and they have everything, and then the next week or month we see that they're getting a divorce or they're just really depressed. God doesn't just want to be our king because he's on a power trip. He wants to be our king. He wants to be our everything. He wants to be our best friend. He wants to be our husband. He wants to be all those things to us. Also because it's the best thing ever for us. So whenever you're tempted to not choose God, to choose another king over God, to choose another idol, or to choose a different path, just remember that knight in shining armor who rescued the Israelites from Egypt, just think about the God of the Bible who forgives people over and over and over again. He's not forceful. He's a gentleman. He's so much better than a human male. He's not passive. He's not aggressive, but he's a protector. Whenever you're tempted to think that you will have it better with someone else or something else, just think about Jesus and the life that he had. He was born in a manger, which is a feeding trough, and I know that I've mentioned this in another episode. He washed people's feet. He served other people. The creator of the heavens and the earth, he came to serve people. He doesn't force people to do anything. He just wants that intimate, close relationship with us. So just don't fall for the lie that God is mean, or he's boring, or he's, I don't know, whatever you think about God, because he's completely the opposite of boring. He's forgiving, he's loving. I mentioned this in another episode. I used to think I just had a twisted view about God that wasn't true. I just felt like someone needed to hear this today. If you feel like you don't know God, just keep reading your Bible. Keep talking to people that know God. Just keep talking to God. Just tell him that you want to know him more. Keep chasing after God. Actually, I think if you took even just one tiny step towards God, you will eventually find that he was the one that was chasing you. He was the one that was chasing after you all along. I'm so glad that you took the time to listen today. If you like what you heard, will you leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts so that this show can reach more people? And if you want to connect with me, go to herholistichealing.com. Before you go, I want to leave you with one of my favorite passages from Matthew 29. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls.
For you, it's easy and my burden is light.